Welcome to the Student of the Game podcast, where we help you master the fundamentals, fall in love with practice, and win at the game of life. I'm your host, Brad Noll. Welcome to the classroom. Welcome back to another episode of Student of the Game. I'm excited, even though we have a little technical difficulties today. For those of you watching the podcast, the video for Lindsay's off, but for those listening, you're not going to skip a beat. So, Lindsay, welcome to the episode.
Thank you for having me.
I think you're the first time repeat guest here. That's awesome. The first time we had you on, we talked about your background and we talked about, kind of how you got into nursing and, really assessing who you are as a person, what fills you up, and your transition to Noll Team Interiors, where you could still help people with the designs of their homes. So, give us an update on how Noll Team Interiors is going this year?
Of course. Yeah, it's been a great year of growing and learning and just a lot of great clients that we've had a chance to work with. We've grown a little bit in the way of having just different people that we've gotten a chance to work with, but also some customers who have had us come in and work with their home in several different rooms. And we've done some commercial projects. So it's been quite the year for Noll Team Interiors.
That's awesome. Well, one of the things we want to do today is we want to talk about, what's it like setting goals as a married couple? You might be listening and you work with your spouse, or you might be listening and you don't work with your spouse, or maybe you're not even married. And so I think what we want to do is we want to talk about how Brad and Lindsay set goals as a family and as a business. And if you can hear a little bit of yourself in this conversation today, we want you to be encouraged with our framework. So take our framework. If you don't have one, if you have a great framework of setting goals, good for you. Tell us, encourage us with what you guys do. But we're going to help you understand how we set goals, how we look at our business, how we look at our family. And we just got back from our trip. So usually early December, we take our trip. It's called December to Remember. And, we just kind of go through a couple points from last year. We talk about our word of the year, our verse of the year, and then really just start setting goals, bucket list, personal, business, and try to land on our direction. So, Lindsay, do you remember our word for 2024?
Connect.
Put you on the spot a little bit. Okay. What is it?
Connect.
Connect. All right. So what has that word done for you all year long? Like when you think of the word connect, what are some things, some wins that you've had when it comes to connect?
What I love about the word of the year is that it gives us a focus for the year. So we spend our time with our family, with our business, really incorporating that word into our lives on a daily basis. And so we start the year out and it's just an intentional focus on something. When we connect, we think about who do we want to connect with. When we started the year, we did, and try to be more intentional. I know we had some family members we really wanted to connect with, whether it was siblings that we wanted to take a trip with, or, your aunt. We intentionally set out this year to have more one-on-one time with her, with our parent. I mean, from a personal perspective, it's been really effective, I think, in building relationships with our family, but also among our team. It's been really fun to see how you've incorporated that with our teammates and connecting with them on a monthly basis, with coaching them up and really being intentional with your time with them. Same here, connecting with our clients. It's amazing what we put out there, how it transitions into our daily lives, really, with just one word and focus.
Well, and I think, the phrase, I may get this right here, or I may butcher it, energy flows where your focus goes. Energy flows where focus goes. And one of the things that I've really been studying is capacity. Like, how do you take on more? How do you have more capacity? And that really has to do with your health, making sure you stay healthy throughout the year, and a part of health is, when you're healthy, when you're rested, when you're in shape, when you are sharp, that creates energy, and where energy will flow where your focus goes. And so our intention of the year, or our word of the year, is to set that intention and really to create energy around the thing that we feel is kind of our one word mission statement. We got that from a real estate conference we went to, heard a speaker one time talk about a one word mission statement. We just kind of fell in love with it, and we're like, you know what, let's do that. So we did it. Connect was something that we felt like, in 2023, we maybe lost sight of that. We lost sight of, the connections, and, we realized, let's get back to relationships. That relationships were never, put on the back burner for us. But I think, when you get busy and you get caught up in, you've got kids that have, busy schedules, Lindsay, I don't know about you, but for me, it's easy to kind of lose track of what our intentions are, with the busyness of our day. So anything to add to that, or you want to get into this conversation about goal setting?
No, I agree. I think we can let life happen to us if we don't have any direction. And when we do have a one word mission statement, which, we started that back when we were leading that small group among our Sunday school class. And we did like canvases where we got everybody together and we painted pictures with our one word so that we had it in front of us every day. And now we've gotten a little simpler with it as life has gotten busier. But having that word in front of you every day, it allows you to refocus on that and keep it in front of you.
Yeah, love it. So let's get into, at the end of the year, this is going to come out here in December. This is really good. If you're listening to this in January or June, no matter when you're listening to this is actually a great framework for every quarter. Maybe for every month. We do it annually, and then we do it quarterly, and then sometimes we revisit this on a monthly basis. It's really important that you stay connected to your goals. There's a story. I think it was Michael Andretti, the Indy 500 race car driver, and one of the greatest race car drivers, IndyCar drivers in the world. And they said, "Do you have any tips for any of the new guys?" And he said, "Don't look at the wall." And that was his tip, like, don't look at the wall. And they said, "Okay, well, tell us a little more. Why should race car drivers not look at the wall?" And he goes, "Because your car will go where your eyes go." Your car will go where your eyes go. Mm-hmm. So that goes back to energy flows, where your focus goes. So what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the positives? Are you focusing on the negatives? What are you focusing on? Here's our framework. All right, let's get into it. We've talked enough, but let's get into our framework. So we start our time together. We usually go away. If you don't have any kids, or if you don't have a ton of distractions, this is probably easy to do at home. But with our lives, we have kids, they're busy, and we choose to go off site. And I think it's really important to get a new frame of mind, frame of reference, and we go off site and we start with our word of the year. And then we go into, in our faith tradition, we have a verse of the year, but you can call it a quote. So this can be a quote of the year, a theme of the year. And then we'll talk about 5 circles. Our 5 circles, our 5 driving forces in our life that we make decisions off of are our faith, our family and relationships, our personal, which is mind and body, our business, and our finances. And those are the 5 circles. And so we set goals in those areas. We have intentions of those areas. But this one word resonates with every one of those circles. Once we kind of talk about our word of the year, our verse of the year, and the 5 circles, we get into the highlights of 2024. All right, what were the highlights? What went well? What did you love about it? Remember when? I think that allows us to kind of stay grounded and have gratitude, with the busyness and the things that did not go well and the challenges that we're up against. To go back through your camera roll, the simplest thing of like, just go back through your camera roll month by month and look at what did you do this year? What did you do that was amazing? So we start with the highlights of. Yeah, go ahead. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's the fun part, because then you get to look back and you get to see all the things that you did do, and you start with the positives.
Yeah. And it's like, and then you're able to write down, well, what do I want to do more of? Do I want to bring that into 2025? So then the next session we do is our bucket list and our 2025 life goals. Like, what do we want to have, be, do, and feel in 2025? After that, we talk about money. We talk about our net worth. We talk about profit first, which is how we run our business. And we have conversations around money, because at the end of the day, the good life costs money. We break for lunch. We do something fun. Lindsay gets facial, and I go to the gym and work out and go to the sauna and, have a good time and get a light lunch, and then come back and really talk a little bit more about money as it relates to our goals. We talk about the cost of these goals. How are we going to allocate the funds necessary to chase after these goals? And then the last session is our 2025 business goals and preparing our calendar. And so we're going to dive into each of these here a little bit. We're not going to take long on the podcast, maybe some follow-up sessions. I've been asked by multiple people to share this framework with them. So I've done that. I've got a copy, a printout. We also have on my Instagram, it's a pinned reel, and it kind of talks about what we did. So you can go to _Brad Noll _ and check that out if you'd like. It's on my reels page, and it just kind of showed what our framework is. But let's get into it. So our word, Lindsay, would you like to share what our word is for 2025?
Elevate.
Elevate. Elevate. It's something that it's been on our hearts and on our minds to elevate. We want to elevate, our faith. We want to elevate our relationships. We want to elevate our mind and our body. We want to elevate our business. We want to elevate our finances. And that's a word that, we've sat on for a little bit. And I think doesn't matter who gets the credit for it, but I want to say I think that's the word you came up with this year.
Yeah, it just seemed to start popping up. And we were, I think, at the lake house when we were doing some business planning with our consultants, and it just came up over and over again. And yeah, it kind of it's been like that in the past too. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah,
it reveals itself.
And it's because we knew that this was coming up again. Like if this is your first time, coming up with the word of the year, it can get difficult. It can be daunting, right? I mean, I think, Lindsay, it's fair to say you were struggling with goals and struggling with words of the years for a while. And, the more you do it, the more you flex your muscles, the more, in shape you are when it comes to this stuff. But, elevate is just something that really kind of stuck with us. And then the quote, verse or quote or scripture, call it whatever you want, that really resonated with us is, because serve others is our number one core value, is whoever elevates himself will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be elevated. I'll read that again. Whoever elevates himself will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be elevated. It's interesting. This is some deep work. It's funny. We took our daughter this year, Bree, our oldest. She wants to go into business school and she wants to learn the business. And so we said, hey, this is before she goes to college, let's take her with us and let's show her what mom and dad actually do. And I think this was hard for her to understand as a 17-year-old girl. I think it's hard for, adults to understand. How can you have a word elevate? Lindsay, this is a question for you. How can you elevate with a focus of others first? Like how do you humble yourself but then still elevate? What does that mean to you?
That's such a deep question. I mean, I think in order to elevate, you have to be humble, and those who seek humility will be honored. So it seems kind of counterproductive, but you can think about all the times that you've spent serving others or helping others and how it felt or how it appeared to other people. And you can see not only that it's the right thing to do, but how good it feels, I guess, to humble yourself and be a servant to others versus just pumping your chest and talking all about yourself and being the top producer. And yeah, that feels great for a very short term, but that's not our goal. And a lot of people could misunderstand having the word elevate as a word of the year, but our approach is going to be humility, not elevating ourselves in the business and in life. So I want to go back to something that you were talking about just before that too, because I've heard people say, well, I don't want to pick a word of the year. They feel the pressure. Like, we have to pick one word. How am I going to pick one word? Well, we've been picking one word for 12 years?
Yeah, something like that.
So we've had 12 different words now. And the more and the longer you do it, the less pressure you feel and the more excited you get about having a word that you get to choose. And it can really lead your family and lead your business in a positive direction, because it does give them one thing to focus on. Because let's be honest, our word is very distracting and we are a very distracted people, and having a focus can actually simplify your life, which I think we all would strive for.
Yeah, I was having a conversation last night with a business owner, and it's something that I enjoy doing. Is like, how do we iron sharpens iron, right? So if you believe iron sharpens iron, then we're called to, really challenge other people. And we're having a conversation, and one of the things that I said is there's a decision that needs to be made, and I just said, you can't make decisions with your feelings. You have to make decisions with your values. Like, what do you value? Right. And so that those could be core values. If you run a business, we have core values for our family, but you have to, I think, start with, what do I value? And when you understand what you value, that will then help set your intention for the year. What do we value? Well, we value high standards. Like this next, going into this next season of our life, we have high standards. We're raising young adults at home. We have high standards. We want to elevate, the curve at home. We have high standards in our workplace. This isn't, this isn't a vacation. You have to come in and you have to earn it. Earn everything is one of our core values. And so, I like what you said, where, how do you do that? When you set goals, if our words elevate, how do you set goals that doesn't feel, I guess, so one-sided? It doesn't feel selfish. Like, I want more money. I want more sales. I want more, like more. And for me, I think I go back to elevate, and it's in its simplest form is, I will be elevated once I humble myself. And it's almost a positioning of my heart, right? So we talk about mindset, like, what's your mindset? That's big right now culturally. It's just a buzzword. We talk about mindset, but also heart set. How are you positioning your mind? But then how are you positioning your heart? And if I truly position my heart to serve more people, eventually, through the process of serving others, I will then be elevated. And if my service is no good to other people, I won't be elevated. That's kind of the accountability in that. If my service to other people is no good, if my service to my children is no good, I will not be elevated as their father. If my service to you, Lindsay, is no good, I will not be elevated as your husband. And so it starts with, I'm going to go set some big goals, but it's going to come from the mindset or the heart set of, I'm going to go serve other people first. And then the amount of people that I serve will then dictate how big of goals I will actually be able to accomplish. Student of the Game is brought to you by Noll Team Real Estate. Our mission is to eradicate mediocre real estate transactions. On your largest financial purchase, you shouldn't have to deal with average. We do this by helping you save time, reduce your stress, and helping you keep as much money in your pocket as we can. You can help us out by introducing us to your friends or family who want to make confident real estate decisions, whether buying, selling, building, or investing. At Noll Team Real Estate, we are connected to a group of realtors who sell 1 in every 8 homes in North America. If you know someone moving out of your area, there's a great chance we can connect them to somebody we know, like, and trust. Remember, relationships win. Now back to the show. Let's keep moving on. I think people understand the concept of this, whether you have a word or not. Our words elevate. Our quote of the year is, whoever elevates himself will be humbled. So if you start about what's in it for me, what can I get, you're going to be humbled. There's going to be some tough times. But if you start from, and those who humble themselves will be elevated, in my faith, how can I humble myself? In my family, in my relationships, how can I humble myself? In your business and in your finances, and then in your mind and body. Elevate is a word. And then I get a little crazy. So last thing here before we move on, Linz. So then I looked up elevate. What's the definition? And it's to raise or to lift up to a higher position, raise to more important or impressive levels. But it also says the word elevate has a rich history tracing back to the Latin word elevare, meaning to raise or to lift up. The Latin root levare is related to levi, meaning light in weight, suggesting an uplifting motion. All right, let me stop there. If something's light in weight, if you want to elevate something, I think the deep thing that we talked about before we left, and this is the work that we're going to have to do afterwards, is if you want to create something that's lighter so that you can lift it up, so that you can elevate it, you have to let go of something. People right now, I know, Lindsay, are like, you guys are weird. You're just like deep thinkers. And like, what do you do? Do you guys have any fun ever? Or is this just like, it's a seminar every night at home? So
we definitely spend a lot of time having these conversations.
Yeah, we do. But that's in the preparation, right? Like that's in the work. So when people see what we have or what we do or who we are, what they don't see is everything behind the scenes. So yeah, it takes time. It takes work. But the thing we're working through right now is before we flip the calendar in the new year and we elevate everything in our lives, we have to decide, what are we going to leave behind? What are we going to let go of so that we're lighter, so that we can elevate? It's not about just doing more. And then recently, the term's taken on figurative meanings and symbolizing growth, improvement, enhancement in personal and societal contexts. So that's really what elevate means to us. We studied the word, we researched the word. That's kind of what we do, and then we move on. But once we get the word of the year, and once we get the verse or the quote of the year, then we really move on to the highlights. So, Lindsay, you already talked about the highlights a little bit. Any highlights from 2024 that stuck out for you?
I mean, I did have like a whole page of them. And if I remember correctly, I had 2 more than you did. So in our competitive family, that was...
You had a lot of highlights. Absolutely.
I did have a lot of highlights. I mean, we spent some time with the siblings in Napa. That was our first trip there. That was definitely a highlight for me. I had a lot of kids' activities on there.
Yeah, but I think, what I want people to hear is, like, we intentionally set out to do things based on our word of the year, right? So, like, your side of the family, your siblings, brother lives in Denver, your sister lives in LA, and it's like we don't get to spend time just as siblings together. So let's go to Napa, let's have fun. And then my cousins came down from San Francisco, and like we just connected, and that to us that was the theme. And then a lot of other highlights that you're talking about with our kids is like we intentionally connected, whether there was like a 1-day trip with one of them, or a golf tournament or a basketball tournament. It's like how do we intentionally connect, and spend more time together. So I think it's really, really important to go back and look through your camera roll and say, what did I do that was a lot of fun this year? What were the highlights of this year? Remember, energy flows where your focus goes. And we decided to focus on gratitude and what went well this year. After that, we get into kind of a bucket list, our bucket list and our goals for 2025. Lindsay, how do you do with bucket lists? Like, what does that mean to you?
Bucket lists are hard for me because I'm very specific. And I like to, go more day to day. So this has been a stretch for me. Living with you, I know you're more of a future thinker and you get really excited about the bucket list. Mine was really short. It was very non-specific and committal. But I mean, there are some things that I want to do in the future and I want to look forward to. And I think that's where this portion of the planning is so important, because it allows us to look forward to something or have something to look forward to, because we all need to have that, right? So any of the listeners who are out there who might feel stuck right now, they need something to look forward to. So I would encourage you to do a bucket list. And just because you do a bucket list, it doesn't mean that you have to do everything on the list. You might pick a couple things from that list and not do 10 of them in your lifetime. But having a couple that you can look forward to and work towards, I know for you, it allows you something to inspire you each day to get up and to go connect with people and really work hard, because you do want to work towards meeting those goals and doing some of those things on your bucket list that you said you could get excited about. And so, yeah, there's definitely a few things on the list for us that I think we'll be doing in the future.
Yeah, and for people who want like just practical feedback, is like, well, what do I put on that list? It's, again, we use the frame of reference of, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you want to feel? What do you want to have? Having things are okay. I think it's okay to have things. You need to balance that with how do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? As well. But one of the things that you and I talk about a lot, it's like we've never been to Europe together. And I think that that's something that is down the road. I mean, we've got some college ahead of us, and we've got a few things. Another bucket list is have our kids graduate with no debt. In college, and that's a bucket list. We talk about home renovations. We're in the business of helping people navigate home purchases. And just to give some feedback, we've lived in our home 17 going on 18 years now, and we've got a big renovation that we're excited about that we want to do. Will it get done? Maybe, most likely, but we're writing it down. Those are things that we're looking forward to. I think we tend to forget sometimes that, yes, looking back, we're grateful, but looking forward, what excites us? Who do you want to be? Do you want to write a book? Do you want to, take a cooking class? Do you want to build an online course? Like, what are the things that just kind of wake you up every single day?
But for people who've never written a bucket list or done goals, and, I fell into this category years ago, I found that 12-week year workbook that Kristen gave me was very helpful because it walked me through some steps in how to write those. It was a clear path of how to get to the have to be, and that's where we got that from. And so just a little plug there for the 12-week year.
Michael Lennington, Kristen Tabbert, shout out. This is the 12-week year. If you're not driving right now and you're listening to how we set our goals, it's through the 12-week year framework. Go get that on Amazon or wherever books are sold. But the 12-week year has been a huge part of our life. So yeah, Kristen has helped with that for sure.
Yep.
So we get these bucket lists. We have goals for 2025. We start writing stuff down. Let's stop and let's talk to the married people. What happens when you have two opposing goals? Let's say you have a goal to go one direction and I have a goal to go in another direction. You want to go to Europe and I want to go to Hawaii. Make something up. How do we decide on who gets to be right?
Isn't that more of a both and mentality?
Yeah.
Like, can't we do both?
You know what?
It may not be this year, but
if you didn't hear anything today, hear what Lindsay just said. Both and, right? Well, you go to both Hawaii and Europe. You just may not do them in the same year, and you just may not do them in the order you want to do them. But you talk about it and you collaborate and you figure out,
what's your why?
What's your why?
Why do you want to go to Hawaii? Right, why do you want to go to Europe?
What's important right now? Maybe in the world today, Europe is more interesting to you. Maybe you really just need a vacation and you don't want to do the sightseeing stuff that you think you're probably going to do in Europe, and you just need to relax and you want to go to Hawaii. Awesome. Think through that. Talk about it. But it takes hard work. Thank you for sharing a little marriage advice. How do we get through things? Both and. Yes, Lindsay gets to do what she wants. Brad gets to do what he wants. Usually Lindsay's list goes first. Anyway, moving on.
I don't know. You're pretty persistent.
Yeah, I'm pretty focused. I don't disagree with that. But it takes both, right? We told Bree that, you're great with the details. You're great with the, what needs done right now. And I'm great with pointing our family in the direction of where we think we need to be in the future. And both of those are important, by the way. If you're married to somebody and they're kind of this person always looking to the future and you're looking always into the future, you're probably in the midst of a little chaos right now because you don't know what's going to happen today. And if you're both focused on today, then the challenge is, are you excited about your future? Are you excited about some goals, that you have? But all right, once we move past our bucket list and our goals for 2025, we start getting into our conversations about money. How do you feel about that, Linz?
My eyes start to glaze over usually.
Yeah.
But it is very helpful for being a woman in this relationship. And like most, money provides security for us. And so knowing where our finances are actually helps me get excited about the future and where we're going. So if I know I've got some security in where we are, then I'm probably more apt to be like, okay, maybe we should take a trip to Europe. Or, we've got a daughter going to college. We probably should hold off on that trip for a couple of years and make sure that we're able to provide that for her. And, we really just sit down and do a deep dive, evaluate where we're at, and then look to see what we've got moving forward. And I think the most important thing is that we're able to make that decision together because we're talking about it. And a lot of people either avoid the conversation or, it isn't a whole lot of fun to sit down and talk about money, depending on what your position is too, because we've been in both positions. We've been in the position where we're like, okay, this year we really need to be careful about our spending. And we've been in positions where it was a little more fun.
Yeah.
But the important part is that we're there having that conversation together and we're transparent with each other and we make the decision together.
Yeah. I think that's a huge thing is getting on the same page. And by doing this December to remember more often, it's easier to stay on the same page and get on the same page. But when it comes to net worth and money, one of the things we talked about with Bree is net worth and cash flow. What's the difference between net worth and cash flow? Net worth is kind of like your scorecard on how you're doing with money. And before you feel bad about where you're at, or before you feel maybe too good about where you're at with money. I look at money in terms of, well, a couple things, but at face value, I look at money like a destination. If you're going to go on a trip, you have to know where you're starting from. If you have financial goals, you actually have to know where you're starting from. This is a great analogy. If I say, how long does it take to get to Indianapolis? Think about that. How long would it take for you to get to Indianapolis? All right, let me shift your perspective.
From where?
You might be listening from Fort Wayne. You might be listening from Traverse City, Michigan. You might be listening from San Diego, California. You might be listening from England. You might be listening from Florida. Where are you listening from determines how far it's going to take you, how long it's going to take you to get to Indianapolis. So we're all starting from a different place, and that's okay. Have some grace for yourself. It's okay. But net worth is your scorecard. At the end of the day, it's not about retiring. It's not about becoming wealthy. It's not about any of these things other than what do you want for you and your family? And net worth to me is more of a legacy play, right? We invest in real estate. We have rental properties. That's a legacy play. That's how do we build for our future? And net worth is a part of that. But guess what? You can't spend net worth every single month. That's cash flow. So you have to set some goals for income. What are you going to do for your income? And we talk about that. We take a deep dive because it's important that we start dreaming, but the good life costs money. Lindsay, what's a good life mean to you? Let's take a pause in the money conversation, but what's a good life mean to you?
The good life is spending time with family, being present with whoever you're with, whoever I'm with, helping others, low stress.
Helping, that's a big one for you, is helping others. I love it. You're like the queen of helping other people. For me, the good life, and this is a word that we used before, but the good life is margin. I want to have margin with my time. I don't want to be stressed out. I want to have margin with my finances. I want to be able to donate. I want to be able to, if there's a pair of Jordans that I like, I can't believe I'm saying this on the podcast, that just to go get them. But I want to have margin with my finances. I want to have margin with my time. I want to have freedom, the flexibility to make those decisions, to chase things that I'm passionate about. To me, that's a good life. It's margin with my kids, being able that our schedules don't become, monopolized by their activities. And I think margin is a good place to be. All right, so we're pretty deep now into the weeds. It's lunchtime. We've gone from our conversations about our highlights of 2024. We talked about our bucket list and our 2025 life goals. We talked about money. And now this is the point where it's like, okay, pause. You need a break. I'm going to go work out. You went to the spa. Much needed break, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, we spend a lot of time thinking during those times and talking, and it does take quite a bit out of you, but it's also good to have some margin, to use your word, in our day to be able to come back and refocus after that time. So very important.
Okay. So we're going to get through the next couple conversations, but there was 2 more sessions that we had. The next one is more of a money conversation. So we talked about net worth as a scorecard. We talked about cash flow in terms of income. But now we need to figure out how to set goals around how much money we're going to need to live the good life, to live the life we're talking about, to maybe take a trip or to travel, to connect with family, to elevate our experiences with our kids. Like, I don't know about you, the listener, but, we've got a daughter who's going off to college next year. And this is kind of like the last go around, the last Christmas, as our family unit, the last spring break as our family unit. That's a slippery slope, by the way. I think, Bree's done a good job of not completely trying to make it so expensive. But the reality is we had to talk about money again as it relates to what are our goals and what are our goals going to cost us and what does our business need to look like. And so we took a deep dive into the businesses that we operate, our investment company, our Noll Team Interiors, which is Lindsay's business, and then Noll Team Real Estate, the one that I lead. And so it's important to take a deep dive in each of those areas to know where we're going to get some help from. And then the last one really came back to, okay, now let's wrap up the day. Let's take the last 2 hours and let's set business goals. What are our business goals? We talked about what we want in our personal lives. And by the way, the first thing, if you caught it, is, we believe there's 5 circles to life. We believe that there's your faith, your family and relationships, and then your personal, which is your mind and body. We believe that's your lifestyle. The business or your career or your job is the machine, and the money that you earn from that is the fuel, right? I mean, think about that. Whatever job or career you have right now, that's the machine. You want a bigger machine? You want more fuel? Go learn something new. Go look for a promotion. Go switch jobs. Go start a business. Do a side hustle, right? It's a gig economy. And the money is the fuel to fund what it is you want your lifestyle to be. And we believe in that. And so we come back and we talk about our business goals at the very end. What are our 2025 business goals? And how does it correlate to our business goals? And then, Lindsay, I think the last piece of the puzzle is preparing our calendar. Why don't you tell everybody about preparing our calendar? I mean, this is where you get excited, where you can actually get your hands dirty and, get in the garden and start tilling the soil a little bit. But talk about preparing the calendar. What does that look like?
Well, we mainly put the big rocks in first, the things that we've said are important to us, whether it's kids' activities or family commitments. And we do our 12-month calendar with things that we know are coming, that are already scheduled, or things that we look for gaps or areas that we have some room to put some things that we put on our bucket list to fit into the schedule. Because we all know that our schedules are going to fill up if we don't fill them up for ourselves. So when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. So we want to make sure that if we've said it's a priority at the beginning of the year, that we put it on the calendar and we make it happen if we can. Now, we also have to remember that we have to have some flexibility for things to change. So we may plan something and, one of the kids' activities or their sports or something comes up and we have to reschedule it. And we know that it's a fluid calendar, but we are able to do more of what we said we wanted to do with intentionality if we put it on our calendar. So I would just say we're more in control of our decisions when we plan ahead. And that way we feel less stuck throughout the year because we've said that's what we wanted to do in a time when we were thinking more clearly versus being reactive. So
yeah, I love it.
Any thoughts?
I think in the words of the famous philosopher Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. And, we talked to Bree about that, and Lindsay and I laugh about that and joke about it. But really, the goal is to put the plan together, but then not hold that so tight that you can't be inflexible to things that come up. And then just the other piece of advice on this is, once we finish this, we will leave having another date already planned. The goal is to have the first quarter, at the end of the first quarter, already planned so that we can make sure that what we talked about, for the year, gets done. And then we'll have these little sessions, in March or in June, throughout the year. So that's a little bit of how we do it. This may not work for everybody. If you're not working with the person you're married to, if you're not even married, if this doesn't make sense to you from a marriage or a partnership standpoint, go do this framework with a friend. Go find an accountability, person to do the same framework. So again, just to go back through our framework, as we choose a word of the year, this is our theme. This is our one-word mission statement for us in 2025. It's going to be elevate. You research that word a little bit. What does it mean? What does it mean to you? Then we come up with a quote or a verse in our faith tradition. And what does that quote, how does that quote, sit on your heart and sit on your mind? And how can you use that all year long? And then we go into our 5 circles: our faith, our family and relationships, our personal, which is mind and body, our business and our finances. What does this word mean to each of those areas of our lives? And then we get started with our day. When we go back and we look at what happened, what was great about this last year, what do we remember? What are things that we want to continue to do? Once we talk about our highlights, then we go into our bucket list and our life goals for 2025. This is a time where we dream. We kind of get a little crazy. We looked at Bree and we said, if you can do this next week and you have enough money to do it, it's not really a goal. It's called a to-do. If you set something up and you're like, I got enough money to do this and I think I can do this by, in 2 weeks, that's not a goal. That's a to-do. Make sure you understand the difference. Then we talked about our net worth, and had some money conversations. We wanted to know, where are we right now, and where do we want to see ourselves? Where can we see ourselves? Then we got a little more specific when it came to finances after lunch, because during lunch we took care of ourselves. And then we went and we talked about our 2025 business goals. How much do we need to earn? What do we need to do with our finances? How do we need to be strategic? What advisors do you need in your life to help you get to this place? I think that's something we didn't talk about, is all the advisors we have in our life, whether they're coaches or advisors or, friends or family, people we lean on, mentors. Part of building this is through our advisory team. Iron sharpens iron. And then the last part of it was preparing our calendar. It's really important that you write down what you want. And I can tell you, and Lindsay, I think you'd agree with this, is our life has been more fulfilled because of the things we've written down, because the things we've written down, we typically do. All right, let's wrap up. What advice would you have to couples? Let's say we're speaking to married couples, or we're speaking to, married couples who work together, or we're speaking to the single person who has an accountability buddy. But what advice would you have for people setting goals together?
I mean, I think it could even apply to business partners, because you're in a relationship with someone that you need to be transparent with, as well as have these conversations in order to move your business forward or your relationship forward. So writing goals together, I think you have to take some time individually to reflect on your year, just like we did, and see what went well and what you would like to continue doing. But then what can you get excited about? Like, what's your true why? And what's going to get you out of bed in the morning and motivate you to work hard or to grow in your relationship? I'm trying to think of a specific example. If I can, maybe you could come up with one.
Well, I think the specific example comes back to your word of the year. Mm-hmm. It's using that as kind of like your anchor thought. And your anchor thought is, kind of what just gets you through, your year. So there's going to be hard times.
Well, and it might be an area that you want to grow in. Like, last year I felt like I could learn a little bit more about color. And so I took a color class, and I really wanted to become a color expert so that I could help more people with color in their homes and businesses.
And for those of you listening that don't know, Lindsay has Noll Team Interiors. And so when she talks about color classes, that's for, painting and carpets and textures and fabrics and, how do things go together and line up. So you have a great eye for that, but you wanted to, increase and do a little more and do a little better. But, as it relates to this podcast, this podcast was birthed out of me having a master's degree in business, but it was from the locker room. And so what I learned early on is that there's clues everywhere in life if you pay attention to them. And we talk about mastering the fundamentals. And I think mastering the fundamentals of business planning is all about the planning and the preparation. Like the work that we did before we went on this trip was the fundamentals. The fundamentals was we showed up to this trip without a blank piece of paper. We all showed up to this trip with things written down already. And that's the fundamentals, is the planning, the preparation for a time like this. Falling in love with practice. That just means that, tough times don't last, but tough people do. Like, you're going to get punched in the face. You're going to have a plan, and you have to fall in love with that plan. You have to fall in love with the life you're intentionally designing for yourself. And if you don't spend time intentionally, charting directions or having a roadmap of a place you want to go, a destination, you're going to get lost. You're going to get caught up in the burnout and the fatigue and the challenges and the problems. And that's where your focus is going to go. That's where your energy is going to go if you don't have that destination. So you got to fall in love with your vision. Every single day, is not easy. Every single day is hard, and it's okay to take a step back every once in a while, but really falling in love with your destination and what it takes to get there. And then winning at the game of life. Winning at the game of life for us, Lindsay, I would just, not to speak for us, but it's just being intentional with our time, our thoughts, our resources, and to set those intentions and to be on purpose and to live a principled-centered life. And anything you want to add to what does winning in 2025 look like for you?
You have such great questions, and I'm not always prepared for them. I mean, elevate. We're just going to keep it very simple and focus on, I want to elevate my faith and spend more time in the Word. I would like to continue with the word connecting with our family and our clients and really deepening relationships with them. And I think those relationships will elevate as well as with our team.
Totally agree. I appreciate it. Rarely do we get a kind of a look inside, what they say, look inside the kitchen or see how the sausage is made. I have no idea. We pulled the curtain back today to show you a little bit about the boring life Lindsay leads, having to have these conversations with me all the time. But in all sincerity, it's time to send some flowers. So if you don't mind, Lindsay, I'd like to send some flowers today. I'd like to send flowers to you because I cannot do this with a different or a better life partner than you. You are amazing, and we are a great team, and I truly believe that. So I'm sending flowers to you, and I'd also like to send some flowers to Greg and Vivian Casino because they're the ones that got us started on the December to Remember and really taking some time to plan out and set some goals and to just dream. And it's interesting how a lot of those things are coming true. We've had a lot of challenges the last few years we've been doing this, but we definitely are headed in the right direction. So I want to thank Greg and Viv for that. But Lindsay, thank you for being another guest, a repeat guest, our first repeat guest on Student of the Game. Thank you for doing this.
No problem. Can I send some flowers too?
Sure.
I want to send some flowers to our 3 kids because they participate in this with us. We do small goal writing sessions with them, which I think would be probably a whole other podcast where we get to talk about goal writing with your kids, because we've also had people ask us about that. But Trey, Delaney, and Brianna, we love you, and we appreciate that you are good sports about learning and growing along with us and writing goals. And they inspire me because I can't believe some of the goals that they choose to write and accomplish. It's inspiring to me. So thank you.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate that. Well, if you're out there and you're trying to get your kids to write goals, I'll share one piece of advice that Lindsay and I live by is kids won't listen to what you say because they're too busy watching what you do. Kids won't listen to what you say because they're too busy watching what you do. If you want your kids to write goals, you need to write some goals. If you want your kids to have vision, you have to have vision.
Drop the mic there.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for listening to Student of the Game, Lindsay. This has been a great time. Whenever you're listening to this, just know that the planning and preparation that goes into being intentional is a real thing. Until next time, have a great one. Thanks for listening to Student of the Game podcast. Whatever game you are playing, I'm cheering for you. See you in the next class.